Dinner for shoes, please.
Hello, and welcome to an episode of Dinner for Shoes. I just got some of this lip gloss in my mouth, which is super spicy. Okay, we are talking today about it's really spicy. It's supposed to plump up your lips. We're gonna get to it, but I swallowed some, and when you swallow some, it's bad. But we're talking about spring summer 2026 trends today. We're talking about my New York Fashion Week experience. For those of you who have been watching the podcast for a while, you know that I come on here after each New York Fashion Week, which I always experience, and I explain how I feel about Fashion Week, the direction that I think Fashion Week and the fashion industry is going in general. I talk about the outfits that I wore to the shows. I talk about my favorite runway experiences, and I serve my trends on a silver platter to you. Today, the silver platter is a new fashion file book that we are going to discuss. And I have my iced latte here because everyone knows like you can't do Fashion Week without an iced latte. And one other thing, which we'll get to when we get to the dinner. But this is my iced latte. Nick and I discovered these cups on TikTok. They're like leak proof. They're super good for lattes. I actually, spoiler for those who don't know, I launched my own personal TikTok and I talked about them in one of the reels that I posted. I'm really late to the game when it comes to TikTok, but Dinner for Shoes has a TikTok. Dinner for Shoes had a TikTok before I had a TikTok. So anyway, we're going to talk about spring summer 2026 trends. I am so excited. I want to do the outfit behind the shoes to kind of talk about the way like what I'm wearing relates to Fashion Week in general. And then once I do that, we can reveal this fashion file book, which is super cool and kind of launched in tandem with New York Fashion Week. So appropriate. I'm going to talk about these Zara shoes because they're awesome. I mean, they're like, you don't even need to say anything. They're awesome. They're striped. They're cool. They're patent leather. I wore them to the Tibby show and I only wore them for like a few hours before I had to run home and change for like my busiest day of Fashion Week, which was a Saturday. And because I only wore them for a couple hours, I wanted to give them another moment. They're really special and cool. And I think that they kind of speak to my brown polka dot Zara headscarf, which I tied into a big chunky headband and kind of gave myself this like voluminous blowout to go with it just because I did get a blowout during Fashion Week, which we're going to talk about. And I like kind of learned how to blow out my own hair with the Dyson properly since I have had the Dyson now for like 2 years and I had never been doing it properly. I finally learned during Fashion Week. So that's kind of like an ode to that. But, yeah, polka dots are sticking around for spring, summer 2026. So if you didn't already have enough of them for fall, you can get more. You can get more. There will be polka dots everywhere. Pretty much every designer that I love put polka dots on the runway, including Siriano, which I just feel like Siriano's been doing polka dots before everyone else was doing polka dots. So those are the shoes. You know about the headscarf. It's a Zara headscarf. These are Zara bangles. And the color palette is the same across all of these accessories, right? I'm also wearing this really cool necklace that I recently got. I didn't get it during Fashion Week, but I recently got it. It says Sarah. What else would it say? And it's from Caitlyn Minimalist. I love how it's kind of like a very delicate choker, but then some of the letters are hanging down to like separate from the rest of the name. Super chic and cool. And then this is a lovely Rebecca Taylor wrap dress. I felt like I needed to wear it because A, we're talking about spring summer trends and it's a spring summer dress for sure. B, I wore a Rebecca Taylor outfit that I absolutely loved during Fashion Week, in fact, with these shoes. So I figured like the Zara shoes and the Rebecca Taylor outfit pairing is just a match made in heaven this Fashion Week. So we had to continue the trend. Of course, I'm wearing my engagement ring. I'm not wearing earrings because I feel like this chunky headband would just like take away. And then we've got like the bangle situation going on. Now, the reason why I brought this lifter plump from Maybelline here is because I was lucky enough to work with Natalie Ruiz, who's a makeup artist, and she works with Maybelline. Maybelline does my makeup for Fashion Week, season after season. They are amazing. And I met Natty. I love meeting new people during Fashion Week who I get to spend like quality time with. We're going to talk a little bit about Fashion Week and the difference between like meeting people and getting to like be creative with them versus schmoozing in the front row or the second row or the third row. I am an editor after all. We'll get there. And I really liked meeting Natty, and she gave me this, and I liked the lip plumper. I felt like it kind of like kept me on my toes when I brought it around with me to the shows. Now, we are going to put our dinner, which is, of course, symbolic of New York, on that plate. But before that, I want to just talk about this Fashion File book, the book of iconic bags that they launched with Asymmetric. Fashion File always gives me a bag to borrow every season. They gave me a Gucci bag, a gorgeous orange Gucci bag this season. I actually, funnily enough, and I haven't even said this to anyone yet, I borrowed 2 bags this season, one from Bag, Borrow, or Steal, and one from Fashion File, and one was orange and one was green, which was a subtle nod to the Taylor Swift colors of her upcoming album. Oh, my phone the timer's going off. So I started this new thing. Now I know I'm going on a tangent, but I started this new thing where every 30 minutes I put on a timer to make myself drink water. And I find that it actually is helping more than me just like getting one of those bottles that makes you like chug but a certain amount by every hour. I don't know. I like the timer thing better for some reason. We'll see how long this lasts. But this is a really gorgeous book. It's the book of iconic bags. They talk about some of the most iconic bags in the game. There's literally the nylon Prada bag, which is the green bag that I borrowed from Bag, Borrow, or Steal. Oh my God, it's cool because you kind of, you know the brand, it says it underneath, but if you didn't look at the underneath brand, you could probably try to like figure out, like, do I know who the Speedy's by? Yes, it's by Louis Vuitton. And kind of challenge yourself. The Gucci one I'm seeing here is the Jackie. I didn't borrow the Jackie, but regardless, this is really, really neat. It talks all about the amazing bags that have gone through Fashion Files history. There are some really amazing street style shots in here. Should we see if like I'm in here? I highly doubt it, guys. I really have not. No, it's like mostly celebrities. What am I even saying? Don't tell anyone I said that, please. Okay. But this bag is so cool. It's my favorite new coffee table book, my new favorite, and I'm obsessed with it. It says on the back, luxury bags make your life more pleasant, make you dream, give you confidence, and show your neighbors you're doing well. Karl Lagerfeld. Who else would you quote? You know what I mean? All right, so we're going to leave that right there. I will replace the plate, and we're going to start talking through Fashion Week. Let me just take a sip. Okay, now I have the energy. Okay, so we're going to talk first a little bit about my experience at Fashion Week. And I'm going to start with like my overall experience. Okay, before we get to the trends, I'm just going to talk about my overall experience, my overall thoughts. I'm just going to lay them out there. So I kind of wrote something, but I'm just going to like kind of read it and make sure I say everything I want to say. But people have been saying, and they've been saying this for seasons, that influencers and celebrities, but mostly like influencers, have been ruining Fashion Week because they're taking the place of like seats of editors who historically have been invited to the shows. And I will say that like I felt that firsthand. I felt not being invited to shows that I historically was invited to. Like I used to go to the Carolina Herrera show. Now, well, first of all, it was in Madrid, so that wouldn't have been the case for this New York Fashion Week, but I'm not invited to a lot of the shows that I used to be invited to because influencers are taking the place of editors. Now, I like to think that that is because they are on an equal playing field with us. They have influence. I think we're seeing it. I know people probably don't like to hear that, but we are seeing it firsthand that other people, the people who are on social media, the people who are looking for fashion are looking to these influencers for their answers to fashion. And they may not be looking to editors as much anymore. Doesn't mean that editors can't exist in this space and still fulfill their roles, which are super important. I mean, we have this whole historical background understanding and knowledge of fashion. We report on fashion from a completely different lens and we have a different point of view that's still so important. So I would never argue that like influencers are better, but they are influential. And so because of that, designers want them at the show. And because of that, I think people are kind of just like over it. They're sick and tired of not getting invited to the shows that they want to get invited to. And a lot of editors and influencers, of course, when they go to these shows, they schmooze. And everyone knows that shows start 30 minutes late, right? So if you get invited to a show and it's at 2:00, that show's probably going to start at 2:30. And what happens from 2 to 2:30 is influencers, editors, people in the front row, they're schmoozing. Photographers are taking pictures of the people who are known, and editors are catching up. And I should probably participate in that more than I do. I'm just going to come out and say it, but I hate people. No, I'm kidding. I don't hate people. I have people there with me that I love a lot of the time. And I like going to runway shows with like the people that I work with, other editors that I have come to love that maybe I've worked with before. But I care more. When I think of Fashion Week, I get most excited and I care more about leaving you. No, I'm kidding. But I do think about Trish when I'm gone at the shows. Anyway, I do know that it's important to network and socialize, but I enjoy the art of fashion. I really do. Do you enjoy the art of fashion? I know. Oh, look at that little. Ooh. Okay. My favorite part is like once the music starts and everyone quiets down and no one's schmoozing or talking anymore, and the designer presents what they are feeling. You see the hair in the air? Oh my God. What they are feeling emotionally and physically and maybe even romantically on the runway before us. This is art. This is like a portrait, but it's cooler because it's clothes and they're moving and we can use them to express ourselves and we can interpret these clothes and these runway shows and this presentation however we want. And that is what's so cool to me when the music starts and when this full presentation of what the designer has been going through the past 6 months is displayed in front of us. And I love seeing the designer take their bow too at the end of all of that. That is what I go to Fashion Week shows for. To me, Fashion Week is not about the cocktails and the schmoozing and the cab rides. And maybe it is for a lot of people and the outfit changes. Maybe it is. But for me, that's the reason why I appreciate it. And I made a little reel about this. I only spoke a few sentences. I obviously speak a hell of a lot more on this podcast, but I made a reel for Pop Sugar just saying that like, if you look in the right places, that art is still there to be appreciated. And the thing is that you don't have to participate in any aspects of Fashion Week if you don't want to. So there's that. Before we move on to the trends, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I wore, and I'm going to kind of like look at my photos. I've never done this before, but like look at my photos and talk about every outfit and every moment as best as I can. So on the first day of Fashion Week, I wore this red Zara set. It came with like a cropped vest and these wide leg pants with my Fashion File Gucci orange bag, Steve Madden gold sandals, and my gold ultra eyewear sunglasses, and this really cool Gucci watch that actually was passed down to me by my grandma Phyllis, who we do talk about sometimes in this podcast. And and a really cool bobble bar pendant too, because I was trying to kind of like make the suit a little bit more bohemian, which we're going to talk about bohemian and how it's definitely a trend that's sticking around also, the boho trend. And that day, before I went to my first show, which was SCHMEAR, which I ended up loving, I went to the Alice and Olivia showroom to get fitted for their show, which was Saturday. And I was really excited for that. And I made a whole reel about what that was like to get fitted. And it made me feel really great. I loved the fact that Alice and Olivia wanted me at the show and that the brand as a whole wanted to dress me in one of their looks. So that was really neat. And SCHMEAR, which I got to enjoy after, was I loved this show because Jonathan SCHMEAR himself says in the show notes that he was not afraid to reflect on one of his collections 10 years ago and kind of like harken back to elements of it, but with this really modern twist. And he presented this really cool surf culture show that I truly, truly loved. The next day, I got a blowout from RPZL and I met their whole team and I had such a blast. And I was wearing this butter yellow, also Zara. You can tell I called in some clothes for Fashion Week from Zara. This butter yellow oversized short sleeve suit that was just so cool. And I got to shoot with the amazing Emma Skakel, who is a great photographer. RPZL hired her. They hire her for a lot of events. I got my nails wrapped for the first time. I've literally never done like nail wraps or press-ons or anything like that. I actually haven't even been getting manicures recently because we're saving for the wedding, but I got to do that. And then I was like all dressed up and I had my blowout and I was ready to shoot with Emma in the streets at 30 Rock, which is like an iconic New York City place, right? So that was really cool. And that evening I got to go to the Christian Siriano show where, oh my God, the front row at Siriano is always amazing. Christian has a lot of celebrity friends, Alicia Silverstone, Selma Blair, to name a few, who are always there. But this year, Oprah and Gail sat next to Whoopi and Lizzo. And that was an iconic front row. And I was sitting pretty close, so I got some good shots with my my director, Jess. And I think my favorite look was this like really cool plaid. Plaid, by the way, is also very much happening for spring, which is cool, right? Because normally I think we think of plaid as like fall and like a cozy print. But this really great two-piece set with like a strong shouldered silhouette and this like beautiful flowing material. It kind of revealed the midriff. The skirt was gathered. It was high-low. It was really, really great. And that day, I also got to, I had a cab, courtesy of Intimacy Me. Intimacy Me. I need to look up how to say that.
Intimissimi.
They gave me a cab that day. They actually picked me up in Hoboken, and it was really cool to feel awesome. And they took me to their event, which was really cool. You could get a pair of panties embroidered. It celebrated their new collection, which was this like really amazing feel-good cotton collection that I got to wear that day. I wore the black cotton ultralight bralette underneath my butter yellow suit. So that was really amazing. And then I came home that night and Nick made a really great shot of Trish and Kit on the runway for me. And I was like, this is my kind of fashion week. Anyway, the next day was my really busy day. And I met with Natty from Maybelline that morning. And this was my first time working with her. And she made me feel really beautiful. And I went to the Tibby show and I was wearing my Rebecca Taylor two-piece set, also like a full pleated skirt situation set like this, just a really romantic feeling set. I wore it with my brown Croc Effect by Far bag. I wore the Cartier watch that my future mother-in-law and future father-in-law, Maria and Ray, got for me. And it was great. And I wore my Zara shoes that I'm wearing today. So that was really special. I love the Tibby show. Tibby is always my favorite show. So I wrote that when I did like a little recap of New York Fashion Week days 1 and 2. I was like, this is always my favorite show. I feel like Tibby always establishes like what it is that I'm going to want to wear next season and some of the main trends. And then I had to run home to get ready for Alice and Olivia and put on my crazy, embellished, amazing wide leg pants. And I wore that with this cashmere mock neck tank. And Nick picked my bag that day. We're going to talk about that bag. There's a strip of satin underneath that bag that rubbed off on the side of my jeans and my top. And if you look real closely at the street style shot that was taken of me in front of the Prabal Gurung show hours later, you can see that happening. Luckily, we got it taken off. We're good. But yeah, that's like just the kind of thing that happens to me at Fashion Week. Like I can't get through a day without something like a mishap. You know what I mean? That's just me. But the Alice and Olivia collection was really iconic. It was kind of like an ode to really powerful women, political figures, New York City. So that was amazing to see. And that night I ended up going out to dinner. Okay, so then I went to the Prabal show. I went to the Prabal Gurung show, and that was probably my favorite collection that I got to witness at Fashion Week. Prabal's collection was all about hope. When he sent the models down the runway, Prabal always has an incredible use of color, but you couldn't tell that the models were kind of all representing a rainbow. So during the finale, when they came out and a choir literally sang hallelujah, this was just the ultimate mode of self-expression, in my opinion. I don't think any designer expressed themselves better this season, at least not yet. We still have, Fashion Week continues. We have London, and then we have Milan, and then we have Paris. But Prabal did a great job. I really, really enjoyed that collection. I also stand for hope right now, and I needed it. I almost cried at the end when Prabal came out and took his bow. Like I said, that's my favorite part of any runway show, and I think what truly matters when you think of Fashion Week. The next day, I was exhausted. So I went to the Jason Wu show, which was in Brooklyn, wearing like a super sporty casual outfit. I kind of like recreated Zoe Kravitz's recreation of Carrie Bradshaw's iconic gym shorts and heels look. I wore like my little Athens graphic t-shirt, which kind of reminded me that I want to do an episode on graphic t-shirts and what they mean to different people, because I think graphic t-shirts are really cool and special. And some people now I'm going on a tangent. I'm just saying things that I'm going to say for the graphic t-shirt episode, so don't listen to me. Okay. But anyway, I wore these Urban Outfitters sport shorts. They're like little cute nylon sport shorts with my Athens graphic tee that I got when I was in Greece. And then I wore, are those my Miu Miu sunglasses? I don't even know what those are. Yes, those are my Miu Miu sunglasses, black, my Coach thong, patent heeled sandals, which you guys know about. I've recently had them on the show. I wore them on the show and I love them. And then the Prada the Prada re-edition green nylon bag. Jason Wu was also a really cool art-inspired show. And I spotted by that time, a lot of runway shows had already happened. So I was starting to see some trends, which we're going to talk about right now. And I kind of reported on the trends that I saw at the Jason Wu show. And yeah, I would say like that was really my fashion week. I don't have much else to say about fashion week aside from the trends, which like you guys are all here to see and hear about. Before I dive into the trends, we're going to dive into one of the most iconic meals. And I think I've had a bagel before on Dinner for Shoes, but I think I did. But we're going to have a bagel with like schmear, a classic bagel and schmear with lox, because I'm Jewish. No, because I love New York, and that is a very classic, and it goes with coffee, but a very classic New York meal. So let me go grab my bagel, and I'm going to talk about where I got the bagel from, and we're going to see if it lives up to the hype, the standards of a New York bagel. Let's put it that way. All right, this looks good. This looks very good. But is it as good as a classic New York bagel? So what I did was I actually Googled bagel places near me because Nick and I find it very difficult to find a good bagel place around here. So I Googled the best bagel spots near me, and this place just so happened to have the best rating. And I have a picture to prove that it has the best rating in the area. It's called B Bagels, and it's in Jersey City. So we're gonna see if they can do it the way they do it in New York. And then we're gonna discuss some trends on the runways. Okay, let's do it. I'm surprised. See, like Kit and Trish, like don't give a shit about this. Also, if I did have a bagel before on, just kidding, I lied. They do. Kit is sitting right here, by the way, in her hammock. If I did have a bagel before in an episode, I probably told you guys that like the way I eat a bagel is different than the way other people eat a bagel. For the sake of taking my first bite, I'm gonna eat it like the way other people do. But the way I eat a bagel is in quarters because my mouth it's big, but for some reason I enjoy taking small bites of a bagel. And like this is just like too big of a bite for me to take, but let's say this looks like the right side to try. It is good. Trish loves salmon. She was doing this last night. Look at this. My locks bub. Okay, wait. We're going to put it away so you can calm down. Here, take a little piece of lox over here. Look. That's smoked salmon. You should probably not have smoked salmon, okay? Let mommy go through the trends. But you take this little piece of lox and you tell me what trend you like the best as we go through, okay? Okay. All right, let's talk about the trends. Okay. So I kind of do this every season where I talk about some of like the micro trends because there are big overarching trends. And then there are more micro trends that aren't like trends, but they're just like styles and silhouettes and like effects and materials that we're seeing a lot of, okay? So some of the dress trends that we're seeing a lot of, pouf sleeves. Mark Harrion and Celine had great examples of the big exaggerated pouf sleeves. Belts, lots of belted dresses. So I'm not doing it right now, but you're gonna want a belt for your dress next spring 2026. Lots of like scarf inspired dresses. I think scarves are just also really having a moment. So I would say like really beautiful flowy slips, which kind of goes with the trend that we're going to talk about. The hoop skirt, Tibi and Altuzara had like hoops kind of inserted into their dresses just to add volume and to add like a really cool geometric shape and structure. Floaty t-shirt dresses, I specifically loved the ones on Prabel's runway. It just made me feel so carefree and honestly like full of hope and light. And I think that's the way Prabal wanted us to feel when he watched his runway show, is light. They just felt really like ethereal, really beautiful. elegant leather. So instead of like leather pants that make like that bring like edge to an outfit, we saw a lot of like skirts and like really beautiful silhouettes made from leather. Proenza Schooler did like a yellow leather dress that was stunning. Like I would wear it to a wedding. Kate Philip Lim, Jacques Mousse, really, really beautiful takes on leather and ripped jeans. I think like I even posted a TikTok about this when I saw them at Simkai. Destroyed jeans. I shouldn't even say ripped jeans, destroyed. We're seeing a lot of ripped jeans, and I think that that's going to come back for spring 2026 because it's a very wearable trend. So Simkai, Area, Brandon Maxwell, they all did it. Caped frocks. We're just seeing a lot of caped frocks on the runway. The Row, Michael Kors, Carolina Herrera. So those are just some micro trends that I discovered. But the big trends, my favorite, probably, I think this is my favorite, is Surf Sophisticate. Area, Calvin Klein, Simkai, Tibby. These are my favorite examples of it. We're talking Bermuda shorts, more relaxed blazer styles, the tie front blazer at Calvin Klein, so cool. Shirts tied around waists, fringe, netting, bikini tops, double waistbands, flat sandals. Tibby brought in a scuba moment with neoprene fabric. It was subtle because it was all black, but it was really sleek. Many of these looks were monochrome though, which kind of felt more polished. And when they were teamed with elegant tops, like the one you see at Area, there's just like this element that's highly considered. I think when we think of like surf culture, we usually think casual, last minute thought, whatever you usually wear. But this feels more intentional. And I really, really like that. It's like the elevated surfer, right? The elevated surfer girl. Can you not step on the computer? You're an elevated surfer girl. 90s school teacher. I kind of feel like this dress could be like 90s school teacher. I don't know. But that's happening too. All to Zara, Celine, Coach, Kate. Tapered trousers, single row blazers, pencil skirts. The denim pencil skirt at Kate. Oh my God. That is so like what your 90s school teacher would wear. These are all touches and subtle style moves that we did gravitate towards back then. Even Coach's like Ugg boot look, I would say, with the fitted jean jacket, that feels very 90s to me. And Coach has this like really excellent way of every trend that's happening, they do it with this like grungy 90s twist. So I love that. Whenever I'm mentioning Coach, it's always like the edgier version of it. Crinkle cool, and this has to do with the material, but I think there's more to it than just the material. Calvin Klein, Tory Burch, Proenza Schooler, Jason Wu. This is paper bag goes glam. I really loved it because it was the #1 texture that I got repeatedly excited to notice on the runway. The fact that a look like with a crinkled material, something we associate with wrinkles or being messy, can be high fashion is kind of like provocative and shows attention to detail from these designers, thinking outside the box, turning art on its head, sort of, which is my favorite type of fashion. And I really hope this one goes mainstream. It feels like something that might stay a little bit more high fashion, a little bit more like I'm wearing this elegant crinkle silk gown to a wedding. But I hope that like we're wearing cool tops like that next spring. I hope that we see that. And then finally, Everyday Bohemian Vacation, which I think I'm definitely weaving elements of this trend into my look today. 3-1 Philip Lim, Stout, Diotima, Proenza Schooler, Coach. I love how Coach even brought like the edge into this version. It's like the rugged spin on the bohemian trend, but lots of maxi dresses were happening over pooling pants, resort touches from wrap skirts to hobo bags that could double as beach bags, flat sandals, whimsical floaty frocks, and even the colors used, a lot of neutrals, a lot of browns, like colors that you would pack for the beach. It was almost as if the designers were like encouraging us to take the liberty to dress this way for a vacation year round, which I really loved. It's not just for when you're traveling, you know? And the colors, you guys know I love the colors. And of course my plate is an ode to one of the colors, maybe not my favorite color, but the colors this season. Now that I'm looking back, I'm kind of realizing that like these might just be the colors that I want to include in my bouquet as a bride because they look so beautiful together. Like I was looking at my folders all organized and I'm obsessed with these colors. So, in no order of like what I like the best, watermelon. This really beautiful color that looks like the inside of a watermelon, pink. So it's not a pink like this, it is watermelon. Ulla Johnson, House of Amma, Michael Kors, Calvin Klein was my favorite example. Calvin Klein was my favorite example of this beautiful watermelon shade that I am looking forward to seeing more of, I think on the runways in like maybe Milan. It's something like very vibrant, you know? Vermilion. I really like this color. Allison Olivia, Proenza Schooler, 3-1 Philip Lim, Brandon Maxwell, and Stout all showed great examples of this more orangey red tone. It's bright, it's vibrant, but it's not cherry red. It's exciting. It's more exciting. I want to paint my nails that color next spring. I want to paint my nails that color now, but I can't because I'm saving for the wedding. I love it. Pea soup, that might be one of my favorites. I actually was going to wear a pair of shoes that were like pea soup colored, but I decided against it. But Simkai, Tibby, Tory Burch, Bach Mai, Sergio Hudson, I loved this color on the runway. It is like this green that is a muted, dulled chartreuse. And it looks like pea soup and it's beautiful. And I love it. The first time I spotted it was when I was at the Simkai show and I saw it on the robe that that model was wearing. And it was just, I was like, I hope that that color I see more of for spring. And I'm glad that I did. Cornflower Blue, Prabal Gurung, Tibby, Celine, Ula Johnson, and Jacques Mousse all showed Cornflower Blue in their collections. I love blue, really love blue. And I'm glad that we get like a different spin instead of like your classic royal or sky, you know? And then finally, Lilac, the color of my plate. Off-White, Brandon Maxwell, Kalina Strada, Christian Siriano, and Carolina Herrera all did this beautiful lilac. And last night when I was high, I was looking up the difference between lilac and lavender and really, really getting into it. And it made me crazy. Yeah, and so those are the trends. Those are the spring 2026 trends. I can't wait to wear them. I don't know about you. I don't know about you. And I can't wait to finish my bagel with locks. She's going to get up. She's going to get up. She's going to see it. She's going to smell it. She's starting to breathe. It's getting heavier. It's getting heavier. She's coming. She's coming. There's food. She's coming. I love her. She's a girl after my own heart, truly. We love you. Happy Fashion Month. And we will be back. Bye.